So today what we thought is we will have one session which will basically be talking about how do we play, talking about um, what are the strategies that we apply whenever the gap. I hope my screen is visible to all of you, and let's get started without wasting any time. It's already 3:01. Thing that happens when you will see that is a no trade zone. So what happens is, assume that the Nifty closed at 17,000 today and tomorrow it opened at 17,100. So whatever is the gap that was created, right, wherein there was no trading happened, because today the last trade executed at 17,000, and tomorrow when the market opens, very hopeful about that the market will open at 17,100 or so. Then whatever is that 100 points delta is the gap, right? And then there are four different kind of gap. Usually, you would read when you talk about a little bit detail into this stock market trading activities. There is one called common gap, breakaway gap, runaway gap, exhaustion gap. We will not be talking much about it. They are more of a theory, but we will be talking about how do you trade them, right? We will, and maybe in one of the next session we will be talking about all these in detail as well. But today the idea should be how do you trade, how do you play, right? What are the things that you should be looking at when the gap up or gap down, when you play gap up and gap down? And if you are trapped in a gap up and gap down, how do you come out of it? That's very important thing, right? And especially this session is for option buyers rather than option sellers, because option sellers life is a little bit easier, wherein you usually do a hedging position already and you can rebalance it, you have good enough of time as well. But for option buyer, the premium kind of goes away very, very immediately as soon as you will see a 50-60 point gap up, gap down. So we will be mainly focusing towards that. So that is what is the session all about today, right? So why do the gap happen, right? So there are 7-8 things that are the core of it. One is the global event. Global event, think about it as a FOMC says that there will be a 50 basis point hike or a 25 basis point hike. US market will react to it, India market will react to it, entire global market will react to it, because this is a good global event. Russia and Ukraine war is happening, and all of a sudden there are some comments. You will see that market, the overall global market will tank, right? So these are some of the global event, right? Right now, most recently, you would have seen the Swiss bank and the UBS thing, right? Hopefully you guys are tracking that as well. So that is again one another global event which says that how the banking system would overall work, right? We have seen the Silicon Valley episode last week or so, and all of a sudden this Swiss bank thing is also coming in. So entire banking is in the question at this point in time. So is it a credit issue? Is it a liquidity issue? So there are so many bits and pieces of it. We'll not get into that, whether it is a credit issue, and when it is a banking credit issue, there is a different way we handle that. When there is a liquidity issue, there is a different way to handle that. And the moment the government starts pumping in a little bit more liquidity, I think these things will actually stabilize, right? But the idea is the entire market is actually looking at all these events, and then it reacts to it. Why? Because we close our market at 3:30, we open next day at 9 o'clock, right? So there is a good 15-16 hour gap that we have, and anything that happens within those hours, right, is something that basically impacts the next day opening. So these are the global events. Then there are some domestic events as well. You would have seen all the Adani episode most recently and how Indian market overall reacted to it, right? Then the state election will come in near term. You will start seeing some sort of sentiment towards that. So the idea is the entire event tracking is something important. That is the main reason why the gap up, gap down happens, and all the other things are actually linked to it. So we talk about global event, we talk about domestic events. What are the indicators? The indicators are mostly the US market, because that is the market that is open during the time we sleep, right? How the foreign institutional investors and the domestic institutional investors are actually playing today is something that will define the course for tomorrow. So these are some of the broader reason as to why the gap up, gap down happens.